Our title for the show today is Abuse That Impacts Your Business. And if you're a business owner or want to be a business owner or just involved in business in general, you're going to want to know some of these things that can seriously impact your business and not only know what they're about, but know how to handle them. And we have a special guest here today, Mary Pat Angelini, who's not only an Assemblywoman, now actually my Assemblywoman in my area, but also Executive Director of Prevention First, and also a Certified Prevention Specialist. So her area of expertise is right in the area of that what we're going to talk about today. And again, the title is Abuse That Impacts Business. Now, as we do each week, we start off with scriptures. God lays scriptures on my heart during the week, and sometimes they make a lot of sense to me when I walk into the show, and sometimes I say, God, how's that going to tie into what we're doing? But you know what? He always comes through. So let's start with the scriptures today. Jeremiah 18:4. But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands. So the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him. Ephesians 5:15-18. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand that what the Lord's will is. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. And lastly today, Hebrews 10:24. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Well, I want to get right to our guest today because we just have so much to talk about. And she's been on before. Many of you know her, Mary Pat Angelini, Assemblywoman, Executive Director of Prevention First, Certified Prevention, most important, Certified Prevention Specialist, and most importantly, a good friend. Mary Pat, welcome this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Mary Pat, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, give us a little background.
Sure. Well, how far do we want to go back?
That's your call. Take your time.
How much time do we have? I grew up in Monmouth County and moved to Virginia. My dad changed jobs when I was a freshman at Red Bank Catholic. I was just telling you this story. So got to see really the beautiful part of Southwest Virginia and Tennessee. Went to school in Tennessee and ended up moving back up here in 1982. I am a social worker by trade. I have a bachelor's in social work and a master's in public administration, and have worked in the field of mental health, worked with the severely mentally ill for a number of years in Virginia as well as at Monmouth Medical Center up here in Monmouth County. And then got the opportunity to apply for the position of director of this agency. It was not called Prevention First at the time. It was called the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. And it was actually a failing agency, and that was back in 1992. But the Board of Trustees wanted to give it one last shot. And so I took the opportunity, applied, interviewed, and got the position. And so I was able, with help of a lot of good friends and great board members, to really build the agency up. So we are close to about $2 million agency.
Oh, wow.
And the bulk of all of that goes directly to programs and services. And that's up from when I took the position in 1992. I think our budget was about $100,000.
Oh, wow.
So
kudos to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, when I took the job, I said I wanted to put myself out of a job because obviously we're talking about substance abuse prevention, and that's so very important, and it impacts so many aspects of our society. But unfortunately, every time I turn the corner, there's something new that we have to tackle.
Right.
And then as far as my political career, I got involved in politics for the first time, never have held any public office, and I ran for Assembly in 2007 and successfully won, and I'm now currently in my second term.
Oh, great.
And I have a beautiful family. My husband's a detective sergeant with the prosecutor's office.
Oh, okay.
And we have 2 grown children and 3 grandchildren, so very, very blessed.
And one of your daughters is involved in politics, too.
Yes, my daughter is a councilwoman in Matawan.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in Matawan.
All right, so she's following in Mom's footsteps.
She is, and it's ironic because there was never politics. There were never any politics involved in our family at all. And so
Really?
My son works in Washington.
I know that feeling. Well, you mentioned Virginia and Tennessee. I don't hear any twang. I mean, it just you kept that New Jersey accent, huh?
I definitely had the twang. It didn't take long though to get the Jersey the Jersey accent back.
That's good. Well, I'm glad you're here with us, Sam. We have so much to cover, so I appreciate that background. I want to just dig right into it because this is a hot topic. I think it's very important for business owners. If you're involved in business out there, you really need to tune in today and listen closely and get that pad and pen out because we're going to give you some powerful information today. And I'm glad Mary Pat was able to take time out of her busy schedule to join us. Now, Mary Pat, let's just back up for a second. What is a certified prevention specialist? Tell me more about that.
It was probably about 8 or 9 years ago, probably closer to 10, but the New Jersey Department of Health and Senior Services, which at the time was involved with all of the substance abuse funding and programming. Mm-hmm. And they decided that as the field of prevention has really grown up over the last 20 years, it was very important to really sanction those working in the field of substance abuse prevention. And that's how this certification came about. You know, when you look back to the history of substance abuse prevention in this country, it really goes back to the early 80s. And if you remember Nancy Reagan and the Just Say No campaign, and, you know, she got a lot of grief throughout the years that was so simplistic. But you know what? It got everybody talking about it. Right. And I really give her kudos for really being starting the whole field of prevention. And it's grown. It's we now know that there are certain aspects of all of prevention programming that can be used. When you look at substance abuse prevention, we always looked at we need to change the knowledge, we need to change the attitudes about substance abuse, and we need to change the behaviors. And we can use those knowledge, attitude, and behavior markers. We can use that through any type of prevention. Whether you're talking about alcohol, underage drinking, whether you're talking about prescription abuse, heroin, cocaine, the strong drugs.
And one leads to the other, right? Quite often, unfortunately.
Exactly.
It's amazing. I'm very impressed where, God's obviously blessed you in many ways where he's taken this budget of $100,000 and gotten you to $2 million today. So he's obviously been in your corner on this. Real quick, what have you seen? And, obviously you've been in prevention for a long time. What have you seen as some of the most recent changes that you're seeing? I mean, let's start at the back end. What about with drugs? I mean, I hear more about synthetic drugs coming out and things that are just crazy stuff lately.
Right. Well, the one constant, unfortunately, is still alcohol is the number one drug of abuse for young people. It absolutely is. But the trends, we absolutely have seen a exponential growth of prescription drug abuse. And there are many factors, and we can talk about that in many ways. But when you look at kind of a perfect storm, when you look at the internet, obviously, is a tool for good, but it's also could be a tool for evil. You look at the internet, you look at the population that we have growing up, there are so many young people that have just grown up on medication. And in my personal opinion, I feel very strongly that we have over-medicated our kids. And so, but it's that mentality. It's not, it's like, okay, well, I just need to take a pill then to feel better. And so you've got the internet, you've got the, just the phenomenon of over-medication. And then, you've got kids just wanting to experiment, and I say that with, in quotes. And it's just been very, very dangerous. That's the one trend that is very, very alarming because I don't see it going away. The other aspect that I think that goes to the perfect storm is all the advertising now that you see on TV as well. Right. You see the pharmaceutical companies advertising nonstop.
Well, obviously, we're starting here with where, the children start with it, but today's show is also going to get to the point where we talk about how this impacts business. And, of course, that's what we're all about today, but we got to give some foundation here. And I'm glad you brought that up because there's a quick story I'm going to tell after the break about that. And I think it's very important that we realize where this stems from, and I know you know that, so we'll talk more about that in the next segment. And so I'm excited to have you here today because this is a big issue for business, and not only what you may be thinking, listeners out there, you may be thinking off the top of your head, oh, well, I know what that is, or I know what happened, but, we're going to talk today about not only how it starts, how it happens in the workplace, but we're also going to cover what you can do about it, right, Mary Pat?
Right. And
give you some options and so forth. So some things you can really take home today and apply to your business on Monday morning, especially if you have an issue or expecting an issue. But even if you don't have an issue, we're going to give you some good thought today to work on it. You listen to Tandem Radio Live. This is Glenn DeLakin here with special guest Mary Pat Angelini, Assemblywoman, Executive Director of Prevention First, and Certified Prevention Specialist. And we're talking about abuse that impacts businesses. Don't forget, tandemradio.com is a great resource. You can not only find out more about what we do here, you can find out more about our guests. There'll be a link there for Mary Pat's website as well. And you can also listen to archive shows and find out a lot about great information about business in general. But mostly it's a powerful resource for everything you want to accomplish in your business life. So tandemradio.com. Feel free to check it out. We'd love to have you drop us a line. We're glad to answer questions. We get a lot of advice questions at info@tandemradio.com, so feel free to send that out. info@tandemradio.com. Email us a question. We'll do our best to get it on the air, but certainly get you an answer. We'll be back right after this.